Hello drummers and lovers of music. Tim Connolly, drummer, drum teacher at you today with a fantastic top 10. I love every single one of the drummers in this list, and these are my top 10 progressive rock drummers of all time. I also have 3 honorable mentions. As I've mentioned in my previous top 10 videos, it's impossible to list everybody that you want to. I mean, I'd have to have a list of 500 drummers, you know? So I narrowed it down to my top 10 and 3 honorable mention. I love progressive rock, probably my favorite form of rock music. I love the technicality of it. I love the musicality of it. I love the changes, the dynamics, everything about prog rock. That's my bag. Okay, let's start with number 10, Mike Mangini, currently of Dream Theater, formerly with Steve Vai and various other artists. What a fantastic drummer that Mike Mangini is. Absolutely incredible hands, one of the fastest drummers in the world. At one time, he was the record holder for single strokes, the world's fastest drummer competition, which he, you know, I've seen him talking about it, and he almost regrets doing it because there's so much pressure on him to perform. But if you watch that guy's finger technique, it's just incredible how quick he can move those sticks. He's a brilliant player. He's a super nice person, very, very personable. I think one of the reasons why he got into Dream Theater was obviously his drumming skill, but also his personality. He's one of those guys that's really, really great to work with. And that's really important in bands. I've been in bands since I was 14 years old. I can't tell you how important it is to get along in the band and not be difficult, and you know, working with other guys and being cooperative. It's like a family, you know. And Mike was the absolute key element to bringing Dream Theater up several notches, and you know, being able to perform at such a high, incredible high level. Now, Mike left his job at Berklee College of Music, one of the top music schools in the world, to do this show, become a rock star with Dream Theater. And of course, he has no regrets because Dream Theater is one of the greatest prog rock bands of all time. Just incredible. I absolutely love Dream Theater stuff. Okay, moving down our list, we've got a monster drummer coming up next. Virgil Donati of Planet X and various other bands that he's played in. He's most notably known for being a clinician, a drum clinician and soloist. This guy has got drum technique coming out his yin-yang. He is unbelievable. I remember I used to teach at this music camp, and not too far from where I live, and it was a top world-class music camp. Some of the best drummers in the world would come to this camp and perform. And Billy Sheehan, the bass player, he played with Virgil on Planet X. Billy came to the camp. I got a chance to talk to Billy about Virgil, and he said that Virgil was an intense guy, a stickler for performing at a high level, kind of like a Buddy Rich kind of a standard, where you perform at the highest level because he performs at the highest level, and he brought the quality of the players up. Now, Billy Sheehan is no slouch. He's a world-class bass player. And playing with Virgil, he said it was very difficult in terms of the music. The music was so complicated, difficult to perform live because of the complicated nature of the music, the changes and everything. But Billy, of course, he handled it fine, and he had nothing but good things to say about Virgil in the end, though. Virgil is also an unbelievable practicer. Dom Famularo told me a story about how Virgil practices like no other drummer. Him and Vinny, apparently, and Steve Smith, they're crazy practicers. And Virgil schedules meetings, like Sabian Cymbals calls him and says, we want to have a meeting with you, we want you to endorse our products, whatever. And they're trying to set up a meeting, and Virgil kept declining the meeting because, oh, that's my practice time, I can't meet. And Virgil basically said, you've got an hour window where I take a break from my practicing. This is where we can meet, and this is what we can do in the hour. So just incredible dedication to the instrument. I seriously admire Virgil. I was told that he practices hours and hours and hours every day when he's not performing and not on a plane traveling around the world. Number 8 is an absolutely incredible drummer, another monster of technique and phrasing and grooves. Thomas Lang from Austria. What an absolutely incredible drummer that Thomas is. I had the privilege of going to Thomas Lang's boot camp in Nashville 6 or 7 years ago and witnessing Thomas in person. Spent 3 days with him. It was intense, this Nashville boot camp, as he calls it. And it is a boot camp. It was 8 hours of drumming a day. We had short breaks, but not very many. We had an hour lunch, but it was basically 4 hours of drumming, lunch, 4 hours of drumming. And then in the evening at the camp, there was all kinds of clinics and guests, and it was amazing. And Thomas Lang, incredible drummer. You have to experience Thomas. He's one of those drummers that he's an experience. He goes beyond drumming skill. He's an experience unto himself. Great teacher, passionate about music, passionate about drumming. Hit it off with him, amazing. He's got a great personality. He's another guy like Mike Mangini that's fun to be around. Everybody loves him. He's a great, great clinician. Drum soloist. He's one of the best drum soloists on the planet. His double bass playing is absolutely ridiculous. And if you get a chance, ever get a chance to go and see Thomas in a drum clinic, I highly, highly recommend it. You will be blown away. Okay, moving down the list. Number 7, another legend, another great, great player, Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater and also Liquid Tension Experiment and the Winery Dogs. Another incredible player that moves through time signatures with ease. He's the prog metal version of Vinnie Colaiuta. He can play virtually any time signature, transitioning from one time signature to the next effortlessly. He's got incredible skills on the drums. His phrasing, his musicality, his double bass work is legendary. If you listen to some of those early Dream Theater tunes, of which he was a founding member, you will hear some of the best recorded drumming of all time. The early Dream Theater stuff right through up to current stuff is just incredibly complicated but beautiful orchestrated music. And Mike Portnoy, founding member, he was one of the guys that got that band off and running. He was one of the original members, and he left the band because he wanted to do some other things, which I understand. Sometimes it's hard being in a band for years and years and years. If I'm not mistaken, he spent 25 years in the band and then decided to switch it up. Understandable, I get it. And that's where Mike Mangini came in. He was Mike's replacement. Now, there's a really great video on YouTube showing Dream Theater auditioning, and you see Thomas Lang, you see Virgil Donati, you see Mike Mangini and some other, Marco Miniman, some other really, really fantastic drummers. And I highly recommend checking out that audition video. It's fantastic. Really, really great. Okay, number 6, a legendary drummer and a true British gentleman, Bill Bruford of King Crimson. I mean, King Crimson is one of the legendary bands that almost every prog band of modern days looks back to King Crimson and is inspired by their music, their use of odd time signatures, their use of metric modulation. I mean, these guys were founding members of the whole prog scene, and Bill Bruford led the charge. Now, I went to a Bill Bruford drum clinic, and this guy he's another one that's like Mike Portnoy. I think Mike Portnoy got it from Bill in terms of being able to easily move through various time signatures. There isn't a time signature that Bill Bruford can't play. He's an extremely talented and innovative drummer. He was one of the very first drummers to employ electronic drum kit in with his acoustic kit. So Simmons drums, when they came out in the late 70s or mid to late 70s, Bill incorporated Simmons drums. He was looking for new sounds and different ideas. He is a true, true innovator. And I was very happy to say, I actually had a lesson with Bill Bruford at that drum clinic. I was one of the people selected to attend a master class with Bill. And I learned so much. Actually, I have a drum lesson coming up that I'm going to demonstrate some of the things that I actually learned from Bill as I've taken it and implemented it into my own playing. That's the beauty of taking drum lessons from masters like this. All right, moving along to number 5, we have the infamous Phil Collins. Now, Phil Collins is another one of those innovative guys like Bill Bruford. If you listen to early Genesis and listen to songs like albums like Nursery Crime, Selling England by the Pound, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, A Trick of the Tail. The drumming in this is incredible. It's some of the most incredible progressive rock drumming you will ever hear. Phil, he's king. He is king on these albums. If you talk to Phil, he would say, I am a drummer who sings. I'm not a singer who drums. He's a drummer first and then a singer. Now, Genesis came around recently. I didn't go to see them, but my student did. And I've seen videos my student sent me and also videos on YouTube showing Phil playing. Now, his son actually played. I shouldn't say showing Phil playing. It was his son that played. Phil was singing. Sadly, Phil looked kind of weak in the videos that I saw. He's having some health problems. But man, the guy was a monster in the day. And I absolutely love Phil's playing. He's another one of those guys that has inspired so many drummers. And that's why he is high on my list, because he's inspired so many people to pick up the sticks and play. He is one of those guys. Now, his solo career stuff, you know, there's legendary drum Phil from In the Air Tonight, of course. And there's some other great drumming. I always enjoyed Phil's drumming on Sussudio and a few other of his tunes, but a lot of Phil's stuff in the solo era was geared towards vocals and not so much drumming. So check out the early Genesis if you want to hear Phil absolutely drumming at his best. Okay, moving along into the top 4, this is where things get really interesting. Number 4, Nick Mason of Pink Floyd. A founding member of Pink Floyd, 1965. This guy was instrumental in getting Pink Floyd up and running and getting them into the, they had a different sound. They were such an incredibly original band, and Nick was a big part of that sound. Without Nick's drumming influence and incredible use of rhythms and sounds and technical abilities around the drum kit, Pink Floyd would just not be the same. He's one of those irreplaceable drummers. He is directly linked to Pink Floyd's sound. Now, the album Dark Side of the Moon, which was voted the greatest album of all time by classic rock voters, is an absolutely incredible example of his playing. He's so smooth, so fantastic in his delivery on the drums, and like I said, very important to the whole sound of Pink Floyd. Now, often drummers are overlooked in bands in terms of songwriting, production, getting certain sounds, whatever. Nick, not as much. I would have to say that Nick is deeply and heavily entrenched in all the sounds and all the elements that make up Pink Floyd. And that's why he's so high on my list, because what an incredible drummer and what an incredible influence on music as a whole, not just drumming, but music as a whole. And ultimately, the most important thing for a drummer is musicality. I can't stress that enough. Musicality is number 1. Nick is the man. We are in the top 3. It's going to get really incredible because these drummers are absolute monsters in the prog rock world. Number 3, Gavin Harrison from Porcupine Tree, Pineapple Thief, also a modern member of King Crimson. This guy is so musical. He's influenced me so much. I absolutely love Porcupine Tree. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm so happy they put out a new album. I've heard the one new song. It's fantastic. The drumming is killer. He's another guy that stands out, not just in the mix, but if you go and see Porcupine Tree live, he's a guy that you want to watch. Porcupine Tree is a really, really great band. And one of the reasons why they're a great band is because of Gavin's incredible musicality. His double bass phrasing, the way that he phrases between his hands and his feet is absolutely brilliant. He's like different than Ray Luzier of Korn, but they're both masters of being able to play brilliant phrasing between the hands and the feet. And Gavin he's a humble guy. I've never met him, but I've seen him in interviews where he's very humble. And I got a lot of respect for people that are extremely, extremely talented, but quite humble. And Gavin is one of those guys. He is incredibly talented. I remember the first time I ever saw Gavin perform was on the Modern Drummer Festival video, which I had on DVD. I went out and purchased it, never heard of him, and immediately I wanted to check this guy out because he blew me away at the festival, and watching that on the DVD was just incredible. And I was a fan after that, and of course then I checked out Porcupine Tree, and I've been a fan ever since. And Gavin is instrumental in the sounds with Porcupine Tree and making that band so, so great. We are at number 2. Now, 1 and 2 are interchangeable, a lot of people say, but number 2 is iconic in the prog rock scene. Now, he's also known a bit in the metal scene and also in the jazz scene. And I'm talking about Danny Carey of Tool. Absolutely incredible drummer. This is a guy that takes incredible patterns, metric modulation, polyrhythms, very, very complicated, difficult drum things, and makes it look like a Sunday walk in the park. If you listen to any Tool song, Danny is always featured with his incredible rhythmic dimensions. You know, he takes drumming to a much, much higher level in his playing, unlike anybody else. There's something that Marco Miniman does that's called interdependence. And I've seen Danny Carey do the exact same thing, where the independence level of what each limb is individually doing is on a scale that is almost unmeasurable. That's how talented Danny is. I definitely put Danny up in number 2 on my prog list, but he's also high on my list of greatest drummers of all time. This is a truly, truly talented drummer. He's a big man too. I think he's like 6'5" or 6'6" or something like that. I've never met him, but I've seen him perform, and powerful, energetic, like I said, very deep drumming. It's almost like he's from another planet with the drumming that he does with Tool. And check him out in a couple of my other videos where I'm reacting to him in a drum solo, and I'm reacting to him on performing with Tool, playing the song Numa. You know, I love Tool. They're one of my favorite bands, and you can't go wrong listening to Danny Carey. He's a legendary, fantastic drummer. All right, we are at number 1. This is incredible, but we've got to do a few honorable mentions. Anyone that's watched my videos, my top 10 videos, I always do some honorable mentions. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly because I'm so excited to get to number 1. Not that these honorable mentions aren't as important. They're very, very important. But I'm going to start with Marco Miniman from Aristocrats and a bunch of other bands that he does, and he's an independent drummer. Marco Miniman, as I mentioned when I was talking about Danny Carey, is one of these guys that takes independence to a much, much higher level. I also mentioned him in that Dream Theater video where they're auditioning. You know, he was one of the guys that they called upon to audition because of his incredible skill, and it's a lot of work taking on Dream Theater songs. You know, the guys that they invited out were guys that they felt could handle the changes and the difficulty of the Dream Theater music. Now, Marco did not get the gig. Mike Mangini got the gig, but man, did he ever look impressive in the audition. I can't emphasize enough how much Marco Minimum impressed the guys in the band. He's an absolute monster. Great player, fun guy. Never met him, but from what I've seen in interviews and everything, he seems like a great guy, and he just loves to play drums. He's another Virgil Donati, practicer like crazy and very passionate about drums and music. Another guy that I really love, English drummer Simon Phillips from Protocol. Of course, also famous for Toto. Toto is not a progressive rock band, but Simon's one of those guys that can play anything with anybody. He's extremely, extremely talented. I've been to his drum clinic. He's very, very calm and chill kind of a guy. You know, he reminds me of those guys drinking tea. Yes, and this is how you play the double bass. And he's drinking tea and he's all calm and everything. But ridiculous double bass, ridiculous phrasing. A lot of these guys play big drum kits. Simon also is a left-handed drummer, like Phil Collins. I forgot to mention that. These two are left-handed drummers. I originally started out as a left-handed drummer. That's a whole other story. I got switched by my drum teacher after a month of playing left-handed. He got tired of having to turn the drum kit around all the time because he was a right-handed drummer, and he said, look man, you got to learn how to play right-handed drums because I'm tired of switching these drums around. I'm a 10-year-old kid. I said, okay, and I learned how to play right-handed. But to this day, I can still play right or left, either side. And that is a huge, huge thing. And that is one of the things that Simon Phillips can also do. Left-handed, but I've also seen him play right-handed. You want to be able to approach your phrasing and your fills, your grooves from the right side or the left side. Can't emphasize that enough. Simon Phillips, check him out. And the last guy I'd like to mention in my honorable mentions is Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Asia. This guy is a monster. Again, I saw him in a drum clinic. I was blown away by his technical abilities. He is a underestimated drummer. If you go and see him play, you will walk away going, whoa, this guy can really, really play. His phrasing is so musical on the drum kit. If you haven't heard of Carl, go pause this video. Go and check him out. He's brilliant, brilliant player. Love Carl. Excellent drummer. Okay, now it comes down to number one. Number one in the prog rock drumming, and also number one in my heart. He's my favorite drummer of all time. The king, in my opinion, of drumming, and absolutely the greatest rock drummer of all time. The greatest prog rock drummer of all time. Drum roll, please. Neil Peart of Rush. Wearing my shirt. Neil Peart of Rush sadly passed away January 7th, 2020. I was devastated. I'm a huge Rush fan. They're my favorite band of all time. I love Neil. What a fantastic drummer that Neil was. You know, I love every Rush tune. Everything that Neil ever played is mind-blowing. You know, I can't emphasize enough how great Neil is and how much that I love his playing. I've seen Rush play about 4 times. I did something and saw something very, very few people have seen, and that's Neil at a drum clinic. In the early 90s, I got a call from a friend working in a music store, and he said, Tim, Neil Peart is doing a drum clinic at the exhibition. You need to go. I went. Me and my friend went. It was unbelievable seeing Neil play in a drum clinic because Neil never did drum clinics. It just wasn't something he did. He didn't really like interacting with fans either. So if you went to a show and you got backstage, you'd just meet Alex and Geddy. Neil wasn't really into that. Now, I met Neil at the end of that clinic and he signed a poster. That's another thing. Neil never signed autographs. I actually got him to sign. They gave out these free posters, giant Sabian, I think they were posters, and I got Neil to sign it. And that's hanging up in my drum room because I'll never sell that. It's too precious to me. And then another time I was actually performing and, recording, and Terry Brown was the producer And Terry Brown, of course, produced 12 Rush albums. And Terry was producing an album that I was playing on, which was unbelievable. And I got to meet Neil because he came over to Terry's house when I was doing the final touches on some recording. I was doing some brush stuff. And Neil showed up and I got a chance to meet him. And what an unbelievable experience. Now, the funny thing is, Terry said to me, you got to be calm. Don't act like a fan. Act like a peer. Don't go crazy and be a fan. Neil doesn't like that. So when Neil showed up, it was difficult for me because in my head I'm going, oh my God, Neil Peart right in front of me. I'm talking to Neil. It was like in my mind, it was a scene from Wayne's World. Well, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. That was what I felt inside. But exterior, I was calm and cool. We just talked about music, talked about the recordings that I was doing. And he was really, really cool. And then he had his business with Terry and then he moved on. So Neil, absolute legend of drumming, legend of prog rock. Rush is another one of those bands that influenced so many drummers. I couldn't tell you how many drummers that I know and have seen videos of and talked to and watched documentaries about. The reason they play drums, Neil Peart. Neil Peart, the greatest drummer of all time, greatest prog rock drummer, number one on my list. Rest in peace, Neil. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. I love doing these top 10 drummers. I'm very passionate about drumming and music, and I hope that you can join me in my journey of these top 10 drummers. I also want to tell you my update on my equipment that I was talking about. In all my videos, I keep mentioning, oh, the lessons are coming, the lessons are coming. The equipment has been shipped. It is on the way, the audio equipment that I need. So I will be starting up my lessons very, very soon. I'm super excited. As you can see, I'm up my game with the lighting. I've been watching some YouTube videos on how to light for talking, how to light for doing drum videos, and I think I'm getting better. Please let me know what you think about the lighting in this video, because I think this is the best one I've done so far. It's a learning curve. I'm learning. I'm trying to get better and better. I'm really excited about being able to get my lessons going. And please like and subscribe, comment, give me your top 10, your top 3, just your favorite prog drummer of all time. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep drumming, keep the groove. See ya.